asked today, to you as well, chat, let's talk about the fact that, hey, we got 2-0 win for TSM. They do tend to win game ones more often than not, but still, it was like a 55% win rate in game one, and they closed one.
Yeah, compared to their average game win rate, and then the game one win rate much lower, but they were really dominant in game one. Game two is more or less the same thing, though it took a little bit longer to get online, obviously. But overall, I like the Lulu Rengar. I like what I saw of the draft. I like the Gragas play as well out of Haunter. I think Gragas is a champion that is going to slowly keep coming back more and more because of the flexibility to put it in the jungle position. And then I think it benefits teams who are well coordinated more. Like some picks like Maokai, like, oh, everyone is great with Maokai. Whereas Gragas is like, if you actually coordinate it well with your team and play team fights well, you'll see more return on a Gragas pick.
Yeah, and I think that it's been nice that there is two sort of body slamming champions to deliver Orianna balls onto. Gragas and Rengar both. Basically point and click on somebody. He's like, all right, shock with this guy. He's CC for a little bit. And that's clearly worked out. I wanted to give a lot of props specifically to the fact that it felt like Svenskeren heavily outperformed Acadian. Acadian seemed to be like the one player that could keep EchoFox in games overall, and he got really blasted in the jungle matchup.
I think it's a case where we saw at the beginning of the year, Acadian's like this god-tier player who was carrying EchoFox essentially through the early games and getting them enough leads that they could win. Here, this is some replays from game one where you see that if he gets controlled, EchoFox really struggles. So they see him go with that hawk shot initially. Here they see him creeping in the bush. Bjergsen playing really heavily down to the bot side here, able to dodge out the charm, and then he's safe. So overall, you see that it's very hard for them to get anything going. And then once again in game two, he's spotted out really early on. Svenskeren runs into him. He still tries to make this play, almost gets it, but gets traded back. And this is after we saw Acadian go to the top side as well, trying to punish Hansu with no flash. Sven countered that one out as well. So for most of the game, it was a lot of Sven following around Acadian and punishing him and stopping him from making the plays. And as long as you do that, it does feel like EchoFox loses games.
Yeah, absolutely the case. And right here, you can just see, everyone's kind of walking over them. Sven gives away one kill here to Froggen, but doesn't really matter at this point. And then also I want to kind of malign Keith for really making silly plays, right? You were talking about how like maybe he wants to walk in and give someone a heal to keep the guy alive, and then just face tanks a bunch of skill shots and dies for free. And it's kind of an issue. And this is a game where actually Looper did manage to get a lot of damage on the Rumble, but generally speaking, I was not very impressed with his play. I felt like there were some very poorly aimed equalizers, and it feels like an EchoFox team that is very fractured. You've got a lot of players heavily underperforming, or just at least getting beat by their opposite member.
It feels a lot like they want to pick a lot of counter matchups and strong laners and hope Acadian snowballs them and they can win from there. And then when that doesn't happen, they just lose. So, Rumble, obviously extremely strong teamfight champion, but one of the best laners in the game right now as well. So like, all right, get him in a tank matchup. Hopefully Looper can win that, and then Acadian can snowball. And we saw the early visit up to the top side, gets countered out, doesn't work. You have the Orianna versus Ahri matchup, still Ahri favored. And they hope we can snowball there. And it just feels like those never quite work out for them. And then once Acadian doesn't get someone a lead early on, the EchoFox's shot calling and skirmishing does not match TSM's.
Definitely doesn't. You got to give props to TSM for managing to outplay difficult lanes and do very well. And speaking of playing very well, Haunter, going to give player of the game to him. Big plays on the Gragas, great explosive casts overall. Most damage, most kills in the team. Honestly, some great stuff there by him. I think a well-deserved individual praise. I thought kind of all of TSM we could give it. It felt like an easier matchup that took care of business. Haunter getting the nod, though.
Yeah, it was definitely a pretty team effort overall. Obviously, the fact that he lost his flash level 1, a little bit of a mistake, but Svenskeren covered that well. And then after that, he was able to move around the map, make a lot of plays for his team. And for the most part, TSM looking really solid. Not really anything you can criticize too heavily in this series at all.
Yeah, and I want to talk about the fact real quick that TSM have now locked in a guaranteed first round bye. They don't guarantee the first seed, though that's pretty likely. They're 2 or 2.5 matches above C9 at this point, so it's pretty likely for them to kind of guarantee that close to the end here. But EchoFox still in the running, although with their current shape, it seems very unlikely, but they can technically catch that like Immortals and FlyQuest sort of group right above them. But it would require, some significant improvements for Week 9.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about TSM getting that first round bye, getting between the 1 and the 2 seed right now feels pretty irrelevant, aside from trying to avoid P1 potentially.
I think
but even then, you don't know who is going to be P1 or C9. But avoiding that matchup is good. Yeah. But that's what you're really aiming for with getting that 1 seed. Right. You're not worrying about the other 3 teams still trying to make the playoffs.
Right. It's like you're pretty much either playing P1 if you're P1/C9 if you're the number 2 team. Those guys are playing each other no matter what. Yeah. Almost for sure in that semifinal. You assume that number 6 is going to drop there, and then it's like, okay, we're waiting for like CLG Dignitas basically, which feels like a much easier matchup than P1 or C9 would be. So that's kind of what you're fighting for.
Never know. CLG, playoff CLG.
Hey. always can happen, of course, but TSM pretty much on track to, again, not miss a final here. It seems very likely in their current form. They make the final, and we see who can test them at the very end. Overall, of course, a well-played set of matches by TSM. Still only 2 match losses. Feels really good for them. Solid team going into the postseason.
Yeah, and I think like the whole, oh my God, game 1 TSM, we might overstate it a little bit because, like you said, still above a 50% win rate for them. And heading into the playoffs, best of 5 is most likely going to help them. They're a team that does seem to figure out what teams are trying to do against them more and more as the series goes on.
All right, well, that's going to do it for us analyzing this match, but now it's going to be time for our next matchup, which will be a battle for a playoff spot, essentially. Counter Logic Gaming versus FlyQuest, hugely important for postseason standings. Don't go anywhere. It's going to be important.
All right, look at Rumble. Kill Rumble, he's up. Kill Rumble, kill Rumble. Try not to first down, I killed Kill Rumble. All right, ban. Reset. Wait, Estro's no flash. Speeding you. I'm going top. Kill him mid, push him mid. Rotate top after. We get 2 minutes. Yeah.